We'll just give it about another 30 seconds. We have one other member who is just logging in, and we'll get started very shortly. Okay, so we do have.
My video stopped working.
What's that, Vincent?
My video stopped working, didn't it?
Oh, okay.
It's working on our end, Vincent.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll start here. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to our virtual Committee of Adjustment meeting. Now on your screen, you're going to see members of our Committee of Adjustment and staff. And behind the scenes, we have many staff members with us this evening who have worked hard to make this evening's meeting possible. Our Secretary Treasurer is Lindsay Stamen, and our Clerk is Derek O'Shea. And together, the two of them are running the Zoom platform from behind the scenes. So you'll be hearing them chime in from time to time, although you might not necessarily see them. Now, the agenda and the schedules for the meeting have been posted on Dash on the city's website. So if you don't have those documents and you'd like to follow along, please feel free to access them now. So this evening, we only have 4 agenda items, and I'd like to share with you the format that I'm going to be using as we navigate through each application. I'm going to start by introducing an applicant, and I'll give the applicant or their agent an opportunity to add anything further. It's at this point, we ask you to state your name and your address for the record. Next, I'll ask the committee members to ask questions of either the applicant or the agent. And then I'll open the public portion of the meeting where we invite members of the public to raise their virtual hand in Zoom and ask any questions or make any comments in respect of the application. Now, if you do have a question or if you wish to make a comment, please don't expect an immediate response, because it's during this portion of the meeting where we physically record your questions and comments. And it's only after I close the public portion of the meeting will the questions and comments be addressed by the applicant, their agent, or staff. And then we go back to the applicant or their agent or staff members to address the public concerns, after which we turn to the committee. I'll ask them to make a motion. We deliberate on the motion, and then we make an ultimate decision. And after that, we just rinse and we repeat. I'll be using the same format for every application this evening. Now, if you have a personal interest in any particular application and you'd like to receive written notice of tonight's decision, then please send an email with your name and address to our Secretary Treasurer. Her name is Lindsay Stamen. Her email address is lsthamann@cityofkingston.ca, all one word. Be sure to include your name, your address, and the file number of the application. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to now call on our clerk, Derek, to confirm quorum. Derek?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will confirm that there is quorum. We do have regrets this evening from committee members Paul Babin, Blaine Fudge, and Jordan Tekanos-Levy, and Greg Lightfoot has yet to join us. From staff this evening, we have in attendance James Barr, the Manager of Development Approvals, Lindsay Stamen, Intermediate Planner and Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, Ricardo Peggi, Planner, Ingi Kim, Planner, and Julia Jansman is our meeting host tonight. Additionally, we have approximately 7 agents and or applicants in attendance, as well as 3 members of the public. And I turn it back to you.
Great. Thanks very much, Derek. Okay, so I'm now going to call the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. and refer you all to the agenda. So committee members, can I call for a motion to approve the agenda? So it's moved by Somnath and seconded by Vincent. And any discussion? So all in favor, raise your physical hand. And that's unanimously carried. Thank you very much. And now we're looking for a confirmation for the minutes from the March 21st meeting. I think we've all received those. You've had an opportunity to review them. So can I call for a motion to approve them? So moved by Vincent and seconded by Somnath. Any discussion? So all in favor, raise your physical hand. And that again is unanimously carried. All right, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? I actually do have one. It's on the fourth item for 1771 Unity Road. I'm working with the applicant on another project, so I'll be declaring a pecuniary interest and turning the chair over to Vincent at that time. There are no delegations and we have no requests for deferrals, nor do we have any returning deferred items. So the first piece of new business we have is actually file number for 2418 Coal Hill Road and 1589 Unity Road. So Lindsay, can I have you read this into the record, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Our first application tonight is for minor variance and consent at 2418 Coal Hill Road and 1589 Unity Road. The file numbers associated with the application are D10-041-2021 and D13-009-2022. Mingy Kim will give a presentation on behalf of the city for this application.
Great, thanks very much.
Good evening, and through you, Mr. Chair. This application is for minor variance and consent at 2418 Coal Hill Road and 1589 Unity Road for a lot addition. Next slide, please. The subject properties are designated hamlet in the official plan and zoned residential type 1, R1, and restrict agricultural A1 in zoning bylaw number 76-26. They are located on the east side of Coal Hill Road and south side of Unity Road and are situated within a rural residential area known as Glenburnie. They're both currently developed with a single detached family dwelling, which won't be affected by the applications in front of us today. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the proposed lot addition is to accommodate personal vehicle parking and a green space in the rear of 1589 Unity Road. There is no new development proposed as part of this application. 2418 Coal Hill Road is currently 0.8 hectares in size with 40 meters of frontage onto Coal Hill Road. And 1589 Unity Road, the property which will benefit from the proposed lot addition, is currently 0.2 hectares in size with 50 meters of frontage onto Unity Road. Both lots are currently undersized compared to other newly created lots in hamlet designation, and especially the lot addition will improve the very undersized benefiting lot at 1589 Unity Road. Next slide, please. So there are no new lots being created as a result of the proposed lot addition. However, it results in two lots that are dual zoned with R1 zone in front and A1 zone in the rear. Next slide, please. So for both retained and benefited parcels, relief from section 513C of zoning bylaw number 76-26 is required to not interpret the zone boundaries as lot boundaries, so that the resulting lots are not treated as having two separate lots. The intention of section 5.13.c is to prevent the construction of more than one dwelling house on individual lots within multiple zones. So the variance will enable the proposed lot addition to be processed as intended in compliance with all of the provisions, and the intent of the bylaw as proposal will not result in more than one dwelling house on the lot. Next slide, please. With respect to public consultation, a public notice sign was posted at both properties. A notice was mailed to 20 property owners in the vicinity, and notification was made available in the Kingston Week Standard. To date, no public comments have been received regarding these applications. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, these applications is being proposed for approval to sever a portion of property at 2418 Coal Hill Road and to transfer the severed portion of the lot to the property at 1589 Unity Road as a lot addition. The proposal maintains the general intent and purpose of both official plan and zoning bylaw. Further, the requested variance is minor in nature, as requested relief from the zoning bylaw arises from the technicality of zoning bylaw, and the effect of them would be limited to the subject property. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding these applications.
Great. Thanks very much, Mr. Kim. So at this point, I'd like to call on the applicant or their agent to identify themselves by name and address for our record, please.
Hi, Robert Rice, 2418 Coal Hill Road, Glen Burnie or Kingston, Ontario.
Great. Thanks very much, Mr. Rice. Is there anything further you want to add to the application before us?
Nope, nothing at all.
Perfect. So I'll turn to the committee members. Do you have any questions for Mr. Rice? And I see 3 heads shaking no, so I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any members of the public with us this evening who wish to speak to the application for 2418 Coal Hill Road or 1589 Unity Road? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. I'll call again. Do we have any members of the public with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 2418 Coal Hill Road or 1589 Unity Road? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And my third and final call is anybody with us this evening to speak to the application for 2418 Coal Hill Road or 1589 Unity Road. Please raise your virtual hand. And seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and come back to the committee for a motion. So moved by Somnath and seconded by Vincent. Any discussion on this? No, very straightforward. So all in favor, raise your physical hand. And that's unanimously carried. Thanks, Mr. Rice. Okay, so the next item we have on our agenda for this evening is number 8B, which is an application for minor variance. Lindsay, can I have you read this into the record, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This is an application for minor variance, file number D13008-2022 at 76, 88, 90, and 94 Stewart Street. Janice Grant is the planner assigned to this application. She was unable to attend tonight's meeting, so our manager of development approvals, James Barr, will give the presentation.
Great, thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I just had some computer problems, so I apologize for my absence in this meeting, but let's continue on. So this is a minor variance application recommending approval for the application at the noted addresses on Stewart Street. This property is known locally as Kingston General Hospital. The variances would allow for a 12-story addition to the existing hospital building at the north end of the property along Stewart Street. The addition is intended to accommodate an expansion of a number of existing hospital services and would provide additional inpatient beds, laboratory space, and administrative capacity. The addition would accommodate an improved helipad on the roof, which would streamline emergency services and patient transfers and allow for the removal of the existing helipad on public open space at the Lake Ontario waterfront. The expansion represents a significant investment in the city and will facilitate improved healthcare services for the region. Next slide, please. The hospital property is comprised of the city block between King Street West, Lower University Avenue, Stewart Street, and George Street. The immediate area surrounding the hospital is generally characterized by institutional buildings and public open space. You'll note that the application also includes the Etherington Hall and Richardson Labs buildings along Stewart Street, which have historically been used by Queens. The hospital and university have a purchase agreement related to these 2 properties, and the 2 buildings are proposed to be removed to accommodate the planned expansion. Next slide, please. From an overall practical perspective, the variances we are looking at today really are variances 1 and 5 shown here. Typically, we would wait for properties to be merged on title prior to processing minor variance applications for development that would straddle lot lines. But in this case, the project team has a number of deadlines they're aiming to meet in order to fulfill Infrastructure Ontario and hospital board requirements. They're seeking approvals at this stage in order to provide a level of confidence to the board ahead of a site plan control application submission. Upon formal purchase of the lots, the properties are merged on title, and variances 2 through 4 would effectively become obsolete. Variance 1 relates to the minimum front yard requirement for Stewart Street. The requested reduction to the required front yard depth for the addition would provide setback consistent with what currently exists in the property today. And the building being designed, the building has been designed to provide an attractive pedestrian environment, and the siting and design are compatible with the surrounding large-scale institutional land uses. It's important to note that the height of the building proposed at 12 stories is zone compliant. Variance 5 relates to the provision of loading spaces for the property. Loading space requirements are calculated based on the total floor area of the use, and based on the proposed floor area, 33 loading spaces will be required. The hospital is intended to continue to utilize the 6 loading bays accessed from King Street West and has indicated that these will be sufficient to meet their functional needs. Next slide, please. The proposed site plan is shown here with the addition shown in light gray, which is the sideways L shape coming in from Seward Street. You can see that the majority of the massing of the addition is located towards the internal portion or the center of the site. The addition has been designed to integrate with the surrounding hospital and will be constructed in phases in order to minimize impact on hospital function. Next slide, please. This image has been provided by the project architect team and illustrates the design vision for the addition. It should be noted that this rendering is conceptual at this stage, and final details will be further reviewed through the subsequent required heritage permit and site plan control processes. As you can see, a covered pedestrian walkway, and it might be hard there just given the size of the image and people's screens, but it's along Stewart Street there. So on the left-hand side of the building at grade, there's a covered pedestrian walkway to accommodate at-grade pedestrian movements immediately adjacent to Stewart Street and provide access to the hospital. The building would also be connected to the existing underground pedestrian tunnel. The architects have provided a change in materiality beyond the building base in order to accommodate a pedestrian scale and relate to the adjacent heritage buildings. Next slide, please. Notice was provided for this meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and as of today, and as of April 5th as well, no additional public correspondence has been received on the application. Next slide, please. As detailed in the staff report, the proposed variance meets the 4 tests for a minor variance as outlined in the Planning Act, and approval would allow for the expansion of an institutional use in an institutional area that is compatible with the surrounding uses and buildings. This application is recommended for approval, and I'm in your hands, Mr. Chair.
Great, thanks very much for that. All right, so at this point, I'd like to call on the applicant or their agent to identify yourself by name and address for our record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and through you, my name is Jennifer Wood. I'm a planner with FO10 Planning and Design. Our address is 4 Cataraqui Street. And just noting that I've had a chance to review the staff report and recommendations and agree with the conclusions of staff and would be happy to assist with answering any questions.
Great, thanks very much. So committee members, do you have any questions for Ms. Wood or staff? No, and I see 3 heads shaking no, so I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any members of the public with us this evening who wish to speak to the application for 76, 88, 90, and 94 Stewart Street? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And do we have members of the public with us this evening who wish to speak to the application for 76, 88, 90, and 94 Stewart Street? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And my third and final call is anybody with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 76, 88, 90, and 94 Stewart Street. Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And seeing none, I'll come back to the committee for a motion. So moved by Somnath and seconded by Vincent. Any discussion on this? So all in favor, raise your physical hand, and that's unanimously carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next item on the agenda is number 8C, which is for 511 Union Street. So Lindsay, can I have you read this into the record, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for minor variance at 511 Union Street. The file number is D13005-2022, and Ricardo Peggi is the planner assigned to this application.
Great, thanks very much.
All right, great. Hello, everybody, and through you, Mr. Chair, my name is Ricardo Peggi. I'm the staff member assigned to this application for minor variance at 511 Union Street, more commonly known as Queens West Campus. The purpose of this application is to construct a 7-story addition and mechanical penthouse onto the southeastern corner of Duncan MacArthur Hall. Next slide, please. So Queens West Campus is about 24 hectares in size and contains various university and institutional uses, including classrooms and campus halls, sports fields and a stadium, and student residence buildings. This application concerns Duncan MacArthur Hall, which is located at the southern portion of the property near to the corner of Sir John A. Macdonald Boulevard and Union Street. The former prison for women site is to the south and other institutional uses are to the east. There are residential neighborhoods to the west and southeast of the site. Next slide, please. So to facilitate the development, the applicant has proposed 2 variances. The first is for the building height. The maximum height allowed is 23 meters, and the proposed building is 32 meters. The second is for the area of the rooftop on which the mechanical penthouse occupies. The purpose of the provision is to not limit the height of buildings by allowing for small structures which extend past the height requirements but are inconsequential to the massing of the building. So examples would include water tanks, mechanical penthouses, and chimneys. The bylaw specifies that these structures may occupy a maximum of 10% of the rooftop area, and the applicant proposes 43% of the roof area. It should be noted that staff advised the applicant in pre-application to apply for these 2 variances rather than applying for just one for an 8-story building. Staff did not consider the mechanical penthouse to be a story unto itself and found this method more appropriate. Next slide, please. So here you can see the displayed site plan. The addition is to be located at the southeast corner of the site and connect with the existing Duncan MacArthur Hall. A new entrance atrium is incorporated into the design, as well as a pedestrian-oriented courtyard in the front of the building and some various other site design elements that will be looked at through site plan control review. Next slide, please. The above rendering and elevation drawing help to visualize how the structure will integrate into the existing building. The architectural design is intended to be compatible with the existing building on site. Next slide, please. In terms of public notice, signage was posted on site 10 days prior to the meeting. Notices were mailed to 112 property owners within 60 meters of the site, and courtesy notice was placed in the Kingston WIG standard. No public correspondence has been submitted to the file at this time. Next slide, please. It is my recommendation to approve the application as the proposal meets all 4 tests listed in the Planning Act to approve a minor variance. Approval of this application will enable Queen's University to expand activities on West Campus by constructing a 7-story addition to Duncan MacArthur Hall. And I'm happy to respond to any questions from the committee or the public. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much for that. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to call on the applicant or their agent to identify yourself by name and address, please.
Hello again. My name is Jennifer Wood, and I'm a planner with FO10 representing Queens, and my address is 4 Cataraqui Street.
Great, well, welcome back again. So committee members, do you have any questions for Ms. Wood or for staff about this? And I see 3 heads shaking no, so I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Do we have any members of the public with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 511 Union Street? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And do we have any members of the public with us this evening wishing to speak to the application for 511 Union Street? Please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And my third and final call, if anybody is with us this evening and you wish to speak to the application for 511 Union Street, please raise your virtual hand in Zoom. And seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and come back to the committee for a motion. So moved by Somnath and seconded by Vincent. Any discussion on this? No. So I think it's a great looking plan. It's my discussion. So all in favor, please raise your physical hand. And that's unanimously carried. Thanks very much. And the next item I'm declaring a conflict of interest on, or pecuniary interest. So I'll be muting my screen. And I'll turn the chair over to Vincent.
Thanks. I have a question though about staff first, about since there's only two of us moving and then seconding. How does that work?
Vincent, I can confirm with the bylaw that quorum is maintained if there are only two members, provided that any other members missing are out due to a pecuniary interest. So regarding any motions for this, the chair is allowed to second motions. So you would be able to second any motions related to this file.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So the final piece is for an application for minor variance and consent for 1771 Unity Road. And Lindsay, can I have you introduce this into the record?
Through you, Mr. Vice Chair. Last, we have an application for minor variance and consent at 1771 Unity Road, file numbers D13-011-2022 and D10-003-2022. Ricardo Peggi is also the planner assigned to this application.
All right, hello again, everyone, and through you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is an application for consent and minor variance at 1771 Unity Road. The purpose of the consent application is to sever a 1 hectare residential lot from the 5.6 hectare subject property. And the minor variance is requested to provide relief from minimum lot frontage provisions for both the severed and retained lots. Next slide, please. The site is situated on the south side of Unity Road between the hamlets of Elginburg to the west and Glen Burnie to the east. The property is developed with a single family dwelling and 2 accessory structures and is predominantly forested. The surrounding area is predominantly made up of rural residential and estate lots, as well as some active agricultural operations. So the property is currently designated as rural in the official plan and is located in the restricted agricultural A1 zone in bylaw 7626. The proposed severance is consistent with policy 3.12.9, which permits up to 2 severances with a minimum lot area of 1 hectare for non-farm residential use from a land holding that existed as of November 6th, 1997. Next slide, please. 2 variances are requested to enable the proposed development, both regarding lot frontage. The retained parcel is required to have a minimum lot frontage of 100.5 meters, and the applicant is proposing a frontage of 69.1 meters. And the severed lot is required to have a frontage measuring 60 meters, and the applicant is proposing 43 meters. Next slide, please. As you can see in the survey of the northern portion of the site, the single detached house is to be retained on the property, and the newly created lot will be able to be developed with a new residence. Next slide, please. In terms of public notice, signage was posted on site 14 days prior to this meeting. Notices were mailed to 29 property owners within 60 meters of the site, and courtesy notice was placed in the Kingston WIG standard. No pieces of public correspondence have been submitted to this file. Next slide. It is my recommendation to approve the consent and minor variances as they are consistent with the provincial policy statement and maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. A plan of subdivision is not necessary for the proper and orderly development of the property. The proposed development is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, and the requested variances are minor in nature. Approval of this application will enable the severance of a 1 hectare rural residential lot from the property. I'm happy to respond to any questions from the committee or the public. Thanks.
Thank you. So now I'd like to call on the applicant or their agent to identify themselves by name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Jason Sands, and I'm here on behalf of the Boulevard Group with respect to this file on Unity Road. I also would like to note that the owner, Mr. Kevin Geldard, is in attendance this evening. Should you have any questions directly for him. Any planning specific questions I'm happy to address. I can confirm that we've reviewed the staff report and all recommendations, including within both the minor variance recommendations as well as the consent, and have no objection or concern to any of those. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Was there anything you wanted to add to the application or?
No, I have nothing further at this time. The only condition, I guess 2 comments, sorry. There's one condition to point out that is above and beyond the standard conditioning typically included in rural consents that speaks to ensuring location of existing on-site sewage disposal system to ensure conformity with that proposed severed parcel. And the reason for that was essentially the submission fell during the winter months in which locating the extent was somewhat difficult. So that will be done in advance of finalizing this application. And secondly, I believe there's an existing accessory structure located on the proposed severed parcel, and recognizing that accessory structures are not a permitted use in advance of a principal use being established, there's a recognition that that will be removed. And sorry, thirdly, we received a supportive recommendation respecting this proposal from the district councillor, Councillor Oosterhoff, of note. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. So committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant, agent, or staff? No, seeing as none. I'll open the public portion of the meeting and ask if anybody in the public who wishes to speak for the application of 1771 Unity Road. But I see that there is no one in.
That's just what I was going to say, Vincent. There's no members of the public in attendance.
So seeing as none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and turn it to the committee for a motion. Moved by Somnath and seconded by me. Any questions? No? All right, so all in favor? And that, I guess, there we go. That passes unanimously. And now I could turn it back to Peter.
All right. Thanks very much, Vincent. I take the chair. All right, so moving on our agenda, next item, we have no notices of motion, no motions, no notices of motions. There's no other business. We've had no other correspondence today. The date of the next meeting is set for Monday, May 16th. I guess that's 5 weeks, so at 5:30 p.m. And now we're just looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Somnath and seconded by Vincent, and all in favor? Raise your physical hand. That's unanimously carried, and the meeting is adjourned at 6:04 p.m. See you next month, everybody. Take care.